Hello and welcome to When They Popped. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Mary. Today we're joined by someone who's mastered the art of getting the real story in Hollywood. Dax Holt is one of the hosts of the Hollywood Raw podcast. Now, Dax spent 11 years at TMZ as one of Harvey's top correspondents, and he was breaking some of the biggest celebrity stories during that time. And with his co-host, Adam Glynn, together, they have the Hollywood Raw podcast. They give the inside scoop and take us behind the scenes of the entertainment industry. Today, we want to dive into Dax's experience covering pop culture during the wild 2000s, from the rise of TMZ to the paparazzi golden age to how paparazzi culture has evolved in the age of social media. Dax, huge fan of your show. Welcome to When They Popped.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm sorry Adam couldn't be here. He's literally out on the streets right now with a camera probably in some celebrity's face, but I know he wanted to join. He sends his love.
We appreciate it.
Doing the Lord's work. Look at the streets. Well, Dax, we are all about Y2K, early 2000s, late 90s nostalgia here at When They Popped. So we wanted to start off with a little rapid fire to get you in the Y2K spirit. Are you down?
Oh, I'm down. Let's do this.
Let's do it. So just really quick, first thing that comes to mind, favorite celebrity story of the 2000s?
Here we go. I think my favorite, can I say a photo? Because I did all the clips clearance at TMZ. So when I associate stories, it's normally to a photo or a video asset from the time, just because that's what I was doing. But I would say my favorite photo of all time is the trifecta when it was Britney, Lindsay, Paris sitting in the car. That to me is like 2000s right there in a singular photo.
That is the Father, Son, Holy Ghost.
Holy Trinity.
Yes, that is the Holy Trinity. We have T-shirts with that image on it.
Love
we
it.
are big fans. You're speaking our language.
So how about favorite Y2K celebrity to cover?
I mean, Paris. Paris for sure. And again, I would say Britney was probably the most entertaining, whether good, bad, or in between. But Paris, I really enjoyed covering her because she was a no one and then turned into the biggest superstar on the planet. And constantly gave it up to the paparazzi, talked to everyone. She is probably one of the smartest people you could ever meet, the kindest people, and just savvy as hell.
We love hearing that about our girl, Paris. What was your most memorable Y2K celebrity encounter?
Probably, I'm going to say John Mayer.
Ooh,
and this was like, I'm trying to think if it was before or after the Jennifer Aniston. I'm going to say before, because this was when John was like really fun John, and he was going out and having fun with all the paparazzi and being a goofball. And I remember walking into Katsuya with one of the other guys on the show, Max, who had like the long blonde hair, the surfer guy off the show. And we were having like a dinner meeting with one of the other big paparazzi agencies. And John walks in, looks at us, and he's like, hell yeah. And he sat down, had like sake bombs with us, and he was just having jokes and having a good time. And it was a weird time for us because we had become very like recognizable in public because the show had blown up, but we weren't famous and we weren't celebrities. And if anything, we were kind of the opposite of it, right? Like we were the anti-celebs. And so celebrities would get a little nervous around us, and John was a complete opposite. And I think that's why it's seared into my memory of how cool it was that he came over, wanted to take pictures with us. He started talking about how like, okay, I'm going to have dinner. And then after dinner, can we all go outside and like, we'll walk together out of the restaurant and have it all crazy. And me being an idiot at the time, it was getting late and I was like, I just want to go home, and I don't want to wait for him to like finish his dinner. And I regretted that moment ever since, that I didn't just stick around to like do that with him, but I didn't. I'm a loser.
No, I think you just reignited my crush on John Mayer. I just got over it.
So is there a Y2K story that you're like, damn, like I wish we had broke that, or I had broke that? You maybe almost.
I mean, with TMZ, we broke every story.
Right.
I can't think of a single story that I wish we would have broken, because honestly, like that time frame, that like 2006 to, I don't know, 2015, it was like there was no one that could beat TMZ with stories. Nobody. And like we were constantly in the headlines on other people's websites. Just everywhere you looked, it was TMZ and breaking news. And so, again, maybe I'm a little jaded in that sense that every big news story in my mind is associated with TMZ. So like, I'm trying to think, I'm like, I have no idea. Everything was TMZ at that time for me.
TMZ sort of became like Ziploc or Band-Aid. Like it's a bandage, not a Band-Aid. Or like jacuzzi instead of hot tub. Like TMZ just became synonymous with celebrity reporting at that time.
Well, I remember it was really funny because you remember how like World Star, whenever someone would get in a fight, they'd be like, World Star! Well, people used to do that all the time. You would get videos of a celebrity doing something, walking down the street. And in the video, you'd always hear like, oh, I'm sending this to TMZ. Oh, I'm selling this to TMZ. And it just became such a commonplace that people knew if I see a celeb or if I see something happening, I need to send this in. And it just made our jobs easier. Like, okay, we'll sit here and you guys spoon feed us the content.
I love that. You may have already mentioned her, but what Y2K celebrity do you think handled fame the best?
Well, I mean, Paris for sure. But I think just to switch up names, I'd say Kim. You know, Kim is a good second place, if not first place in that regard of just being able to own the limelight and really relish in it, but then make the best out of the whole situation. And granted, you know, we all know set up sex tapes and all of that kind of stuff helped catapult her, but it's very hard to stay famous in this day and age and stay relevant and on the top of people's minds. And that is one thing that Kim, Paris, Kris Jenner has been able to do all of these years that is unbelievable. I honestly don't know how they do it.
Not bad for a girl with no talent. I love when she
Fake it
says
till
that.
you make it. Let's do this.
Okay, final two. Coolest Y2K star in your cell phone?
Who is in my cell phone? I used to have a bunch of just random people. Like, let me scroll through and see if anyone pops out. I mean, I used to have like Coco. Do you remember how Coco was always like so relevant with her and Ice-T? That was always a fun one. I went to their wedding
Love
back
them.
in the day.
You did?
Yeah.
They had a reality show, didn't they?
They had
I
a reality
loved them.
show and they like redid their vows for the reality show. And I got to go to that wedding and it was really funny because I looked really out of place. I was like looking and I'm like, I got Snoop Dogg on one side. I got Flava Flav on the other side. Ice-T's here. Coco. I'm like, what am I doing here? This is wild.
When you were like rubbing shoulders with celebrities like that, did you ever feel like ostracized in any way? Because like you're the tabloids, right? Like was there ever any weirdness?
No. I guess it depends on the room that you're in, right? Like a room like that, no, because you were there as a guest of the people. And if they trusted you, then the people in the room trusted you. Just like I was at Danielle Fishel's wedding as well. And that was also a room where they could have easily been like, get the hell out of there. You got all these big stars. They could have easily been like, why is this guy here? But because I'm friends with Danielle, it was like, oh yeah, he's welcome as well. So it depended on the room. Whereas other situations like an Emmy party, they might be a little more like, what is he doing? Is he just trying to get a story? What's the deal here? We got kicked out of Villa once because Leonardo DiCaprio walked in and he saw us and he was like, out.
So he recognized you and it was like, wow.
I mean, that's
cool.
an honor, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You're like, Leo? Hello?
Yeah, so he recognized us and was like, hell no, I don't care if they're just having fun.
Yeah.
Out of here. Get them out of here right now. And so we were ushered out the back door of Villa after literally just opening a bottle of champagne. And it turned into a good story. Not everyone can say they've been kicked out of a club because of Leo.
No, that is a badge of honor, honestly. Last one, Dax, confirm or deny? Ashton Kutcher punked you?
Yes, that is true.
And okay, that's like a moment of that era all in itself. Did you have any idea? Like, did people know it was coming? Tell us.
No. So this was when we had a Sunset office. So originally TMZ had started up in Burbank because we were sister shows with the TV show Extra, like the other one. And so we were in Burbank and then we moved to Hollywood. And in Hollywood, it was a 3-story, like outdoor mall kind of thing. And we were in the top story. So there's a Crunch Gym there, there's Trader Joe's, all kinds of stuff. And so you would see people all the time as you were going up and down the elevators. And I remember walking out and then all of a sudden, all these camera guys like surrounded me. And again, we rarely got the tables turned on us. Like, I'd had my photograph taken here and there, but to have like 3 or 4 people in my face with cameras, and I'm like, what's happening? And they were asking all these weird questions on whether or not like I got the babies or I adopted the babies. And it was more just confusion. I didn't know what the hell was happening. And so I remember like leaving and being weirded out. And then it happened to a couple other people. And then we found out after the fact, it was Ashton and his team turning the tables on the TMZ guys. And so it turned into this whole thing where Ashton was there pretending to be Harvey Levin, and he was going through the room, and what they were presenting in the room were our videos that they had spoofed us.
That's really cool.
It was different because you can see if you go back and watch it, I looked extremely confused and I had no idea what the hell was happening.
Wasn't Justin Timberlake like high when he got punked? I felt so bad for him.
When he started crying. It was
No,
so
for
sad.
my dogs.
It was so sad. Yeah, he's had a fall from grace. My God.
Well, now that we've officially broke the ice.
Sorry, that was supposed to be rapid speed, wasn't it? I did not make that rapid.
No, we liked it.
We'll take whatever you'll give us, honestly. That was awesome. But let's start with those early 2000s. To our listeners who may not have been as in the know, can you describe this like golden age of paparazzi culture, like before social media existed?
It really was a different time in celebrity news. Like, when I think back to the early days, because it was right around 2005, I had just graduated college, happened to meet Harvey at the same time, and literally that was my first job out of college. So it was a very lucky point. But back then, it was blogs. It was Perez Hilton. It was Pink is the New Blog. That was the media landscape that was covering celeb news outside of Entertainment Tonight and Extra and Access Hollywood. That was like the big and up and coming thing, these blogs and the way they covered them. And it wasn't always the nicest way that they covered celebs. Like, remember how much Perez would draw on people's faces and just be mean. And it was just a different time back then, but there was no social media. And so you were getting all of your news from either the TV shows or blogs. And that's when TMZ broke in and kind of legitimized the news that was coming out online. So it was more than a blog. It was a news site in a blog style. And I remember it being very cool because when there's no social media, people are actively wanting content about their favorite celebs. And so it was a lot easier to get information and to have people tune into your shows or look at your websites. And back then, it was like amazing. You had Paris and Lindsay and Britney going crazy because it was just, that was the time. Everything that happened before, they weren't getting caught on camera as much. TMZ comes around and now you're being caught on camera. Now people are sending in sightings because they have cell phones with cameras on them. Like before that, we didn't have cell phones with cameras. So unless you were a paparazzi, you weren't seeing the content make it to anywhere in the media. I don't know. And it all kind of like came together so nicely at the right time with these big celebs. Like, I don't know. It was just really fun.
It was so fun. And I'm so grateful that I grew up in that era because what a time to be alive, honestly.
It really was.
Were there like any unwritten rules in that field at the time? Like pictures that wouldn't be taken or sold, or like, were there some guideline standards?
Yeah. And a lot of people would always say, oh, TMZ has no boundaries. I can tell you, yes, there were a lot of boundaries. It's just because you didn't speak of them, people didn't know they existed. But I would say a big thing is no shooting into like people's backyards. And I used to see it all the time. We would never post any photos where it was an intrusive photo into someone's backyard, onto their property, through a window. When I would see those photos come through because the agencies would do them, we would never run them. I feel like funerals were also like this weird point of like, you got to cover it for the news aspect, but there's a line of like, don't go inside or don't show certain aspects unless it is a big public memorial, a Michael Jackson or whatever, where they're letting cameras inside. So there was that line. Outing people was always a big, big no-no at TMZ, where we had known so-and-so was gay or whatever for a long time, but you just didn't, we weren't supposed to be the ones to put that out there. So-and-so and his boyfriend on the beach. Like, if people don't know that they're together,
Right.
we shouldn't be the ones to reveal that based on a photo. Stuff like that.
It sounds like you guys had more standards than like a lot of the photographers than what I guess, because I feel like I saw people getting like shot through their back, yet not published by you guys.
It happened all the time, but I would also say people just categorize TMZ with paparazzi
Yes.
and the lines all blur together and you get blamed for stuff you didn't do. And that's okay. I mean, it comes with the territory, and I think Harvey takes all that stuff with stride.
So tell us about some of those specific hotspots in LA or New York that you were like guaranteed to get a great sighting. Like for me, I grew up in Connecticut. So I was like, I'm going to go to LA one day, go to the Grove and the Ivy and Kitson because I know I'm going to see Jennifer Aniston.
Yep. God, you even bring back memories there, talking about the Ivy and stuff with the nastiest food in LA. It was the hot spot where, because it's, if you've never been to LA, Ivy was on Robertson Boulevard. And it had all these shops, but that was an outdoor restaurant where everyone, if you wanted to be seen, you go there because you know the Paps are just hanging out on Robertson waiting for someone to go shopping at Kitson or to eat there. And so it was just the place to go and be seen. And I remember years ago, Nicole Richie, she would literally, when her and Paris were all over the Simple Life, she would drive her, I think it was like a G-Wagon, up and down the street like 3 times. The Paps would see her, get in their cars, and then follow her to wherever she was going to go. Because then that guaranteed she would get photographed wherever she needed to be that day, but it's allowing the paparazzi to see her to then go. And I always remember, because she went on the Tyra Banks show like 2 months later, and she was crying about how the paparazzi never left her alone. I'm like, Nicole, I know what you're doing in real life, and now you're like whining about it on TV, but it's the name of the game, whatever, right? But no, that area was just filled with celebs all the time, and Kitson was the hot spot. Kitson was where Paris would go almost every single day. And then you've got Boa, it was way more popular back then. You've got, I mean, I know Craig's, that's become the hotspot. It was not a hotspot back then. There was Villa, which is the club I was telling you guys about. I'm trying to remember all the names of the clubs on like Hollywood Boulevard, because that's where people used to hang out all the time. And now it's like 20 years ago. So now those clubs have shut down and they've gone away and been renamed 7 times since then.
It's crazy that we would see them like stumble out of the club and get into a car and then drive themselves home.
I'm telling you, it was a different era back then. Before Uber, before all of it, it was like that was, I don't want to say normal, but it was a lot more accepted, or boundaries were pushed. And now you can't get away with anything.
Oh, so we want to know, how competitive was it to get like the money shot during that era? Just knowing how competitive it was. You weren't competing with other people on their cell phones. Like, did you go to any crazy lengths or anything to get a shot?
I would say the competitiveness has always been around. Before TMZ, during TMZ, years after TMZ, it'll still be around. I think that desire to be the lead entertainment source is always going to exist. The difference is, during a certain period of time, things were funneled directly to TMZ. Whereas if it goes to an agency and a paparazzi takes this amazing photo and they upload it to their agency then has the contact number for all the different sites, magazines, blogs, everything. And they send it out and goes, who wants to pay the most for this? And so whoever wants to pay the most gets the photo. Whereas if TMZ puts their name out there and everyone thinks TMZ first, someone sends it. My job was to go, hey, this is a great photo. I'm going to buy it from you. And you take away a lot of the negotiation power because you're not fighting against other spots to get the content. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I think the one really big thing that TMZ did that was really smart is we had our own crew of photographers. And those photographers, again, here's another little like behind the scenes thing. We would only go to restaurants and public spaces. There was never a TMZ camera sitting at someone's house, but they would be outside of restaurants, bars, movie theaters, whatever.
Airports
To get those interviews. And that also deterred a lot of the like, here, I'm going to charge TMZ a bunch of money for stuff because now we were everywhere. We had our own crew.
Do you know what was the highest amount paid for a single photo or video during that time?
I absolutely do. And do you know I can't tell you because I don't need Harvey coming in.
Oh, God. Is it like millions or is it like a couple $1 million?
Was it Brangelina? Can you tell us what it
Well,
was?
I can say I know which photo you're thinking of. The Brangelina twins, which TMZ did not buy, which was bought, I want to say, like People Are Us Weekly. They paid over $1 million for that first shot of the twins. And I think that may go down in record as like the most paid for a single photo.
Damn. All right. That's a lot. So you mentioned Paris and Nicole like driving down the street to, get the paparazzi's attention and then taking them kind of where they needed to go. Any other stories about how celebrities tried to kind of manipulate the paparazzi to their advantage? And do you feel like that's changed or is that still happening today, but maybe in a different way?
I think that they're being a lot smarter. I think that celebs realize the power of a relationship between the photographer and them. Like my co-host Adam, he knows just about everyone, every big celebrity, and they know that if they're kind to him, that video will most likely go everywhere because Adam's not affiliated with one specific outlet. He sells his videos to everyone. We talk about it on obviously our podcast, but he gets the greatest videos. Like Oprah comes out of her way to be like, hey, Adam, how are you? Give him the time of day that she doesn't give everyone. And I think that relationship has started to work for a lot of celebs out there and they realize it. I think we had Brian Austin Green on, I don't know, a couple of years back. And he used to talk about how he goes, yeah, Megan Fox and I used to call the Paps, let them know where we are going to be in Hawaii, because if we open the door to them, let them take our photos and then say, you guys have 15, 20 minutes, take as many photos as you want, and then leave us alone for the rest of the trip. And I always thought, wow, like you're really understanding how to work the game to your advantage because you know that they're going to take photos. But if you just give them what they want, they will then in return give you what you want, and that is space and no photos. So I think that over time, the celebrities have started to realize, okay, I need to stay relevant in between my project. I need to be on these websites, these blogs, whatever it is, on Instagram, because then I'm staying at the top of people's minds because that's what's going to bring them back into watch my show, watch my movie, to listen to my music, whatever it is. And so they can play the game a little bit more.
So they've savvied up a bit.
Oh, yeah. And I think a lot of that comes from like Kim Kardashian, honestly, and knowing how to savvy up this game tenfold and to play it to a point where it benefits you.
A smart woman. Okay, taking us back to Y2K era a little bit. Any like chaotic celebrity moment you witnessed firsthand that you can pull off the top of your head?
Oh, firsthand? Not like it came in?
It doesn't come across your
I think
desk.
chaotic moment instantly in my head is Britney hitting the car with the umbrella. But I will say there was a day that Britney was driving aimlessly around LA. Do you remember when she would do that?
All the time. And she'd go to the gas stations and CVS and like kind of just walk around.
She would drive through. And I remember at one point there was local LA camera, like helicopters following her because it became such a spectacle, where she would drive and there would, I swear to God, be 50 paparazzi cars following her. And it was crazy because they were all running red lights. And it was like she would go and then 50 cars would follow her and all the traffic would just have to wait for these 50 cars to go through the light because they weren't stopping. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not giving up that chase. And we're watching it on the news. And I remember watching going, oh my God, she's going to go right by our building right now. And I remember pulling up the curtains and watching her drive and then 50 cars follow right behind her. And the light was red for them. And they just kept going and going and going. And to see how many people were following her in this one moment, I couldn't imagine what it was like for Britney during that time when you couldn't do anything without cameras in your face.
Would love to talk to you about Britney a little bit more, just being in your position when all of that was going on. I thought she was also kind of unique because we saw her literally befriending paparazzis, like dating. Who'd she date? Adnan.
Yeah.
And like, as someone who was close to it, like watching it happen, were you guys like worried about her? Like, what was like going through your head during those years?
I mean, it was interesting because I would say, looking back, again, hindsight 2020, right? We all know what Britney has now gone through at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say when we were in the middle of it and it was wild, it was, wow, this is really entertaining. This is funny. This is crazy. Like, let's just see what Britney's going to do today.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took like a weird turn halfway through where it was, oh, Britney's not healthy. Britney needs help. So I would say at the beginning, and I would say probably a lot of people felt the same way, whether they want to admit it or not, they enjoyed the crazy, right? Like we all kind of sat back, buckled up, and were like, this is fun to watch. And then it turned for a lot of people. And I think we could say the same for Amanda Bynes. I think we could say the same for Kanye West. But her story, I was particularly interested just because I was a big Britney fan back in high school because she's literally my age. She was the hot girl on TV. Like I had a huge crush on her. And then I was able to kind of like grow up and report on her. And every day she brought entertainment to the world by just what the hell she was doing. And then, yeah, it turned kind of dark, unfortunately, for a very long time. But I'm still a Britney fan. I want the best for her. I really do. I'm just nervous that she's going to spend through all of her money. And I mean, I guess that's her choice to do so. But I want her to be good.
I know. That woman keeps me up at night. I was a huge Britney fan growing up, and I worry about her all the time. So
I actually got to see her at one of her like secret concerts. Do you remember when
Eminem?
Right after she had shaved her head?
When she had the wig and it was like at the House of Blues? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
We got tipped off that she was doing those shows and it was under some like disguised name. What did you call it? Eminem?
I think it was like her Eminem tour or something. Something
that
weird.
Sounds right. It was it was something weird that like her name wasn't associated with the tickets or the sale. And I remember a bunch of us from TMZ got tickets. We like went that night to the House of Blues on Sunset Strip. And she came out in the wig, the whole thing, and sang her hits. And I remember being like, this is wild. And to look back and know that I got to go enjoy one of those concerts, it was pretty cool.
Because there were not many. It did not go on very long. And those are small venues.
Yeah, it probably stopped like the next time because, again, we got a lot of video and photos of her that night. And so people found out about it pretty quick. But that's just a big moment seared into my mind in history.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
Yeah, we are so incredibly jealous, first of all. But speaking of hindsight and looking back on some of these scandal moments, are there any other Y2K moments, celebrity scandals, if you will, that you feel like would play out differently today? Like the sex tapes with Paris and Kim, they were shamed. They were called sluts and whores. I feel like that would not happen today.
It would not fly today. And 100%, those would be the stories that, like, the slut shaming would not be a thing because people realize that the issues that come along with that and how it can really hurt someone mentally. And I also think that the way they were done, you got to remember, it was like they seemed like they were stolen or they seemed like they were released. That also played into it. I mean, those two women made a ton of money off of those sex tapes and it also made them super, super famous. But if you remember, it ruined Pam Anderson's like career. And hers was the only one that was like a legitimate sex tape stolen from her house. Like this poor woman, it ruined her life. It ruined her marriage. And, that's the one that I feel really, really bad for and just how that whole thing played out. Because there's no way you would have seen the light of day today knowing that it's stolen. That would have been shut down the second it popped up online.
I'm so glad she's kind of having a moment now and
a renaissance,
exactly.
Pam-a-sance.
I love her and Lindsay Lohan. Like both of them have like come back.
Great.
She looks so good at the Vanity Fair Oscars party. I was like, are you kidding me, Lindsay?
No, she looked really good.
She must have been another one that kept you guys busy.
Very busy. Every day was a Lindsay Lohan thing, whether she was passed out in a car or having a fight with Sam Ronson, or just, it was nonstop. But honestly, that was probably the most entertaining part of it, was just that she kept herself in the headlines for a long time. I remember the photos of her with you remember the ankle bracelet on? She was
Oh, yeah.
over her house.
Chanel came out with ankle bracelet monitor looking ankle bags after that. That's how influential it was.
Or do you remember when she was in court and she wrote "F-U" on her
That
fingernails?
is my Roman Empire.
She was gold, and having to go work, I don't remember if it was the morgue or the sanitation department or something.
Morgue.
The morgue.
Working at. It was just so much content with Lindsay Lohan. She came in once to TMZ because we were doing like an April Fool's Day joke, and her and Sam Ronson had filmed videos of them like out in the grocery store shopping, and she pitched it out on the show, but we never made reference that it was Lindsay Lohan. So she pitched out the whole thing. Everyone started writing in like, is that Lindsay? Is it not Lindsay? Like and that's what made the joke so funny, is that no one could tell if it was Lindsay. But getting to hang out with her, she was wonderful. She's crazy talented. And that was one thing that I felt like Lindsay was so talented, and it like went to waste during those years because her career got so derailed. The Liz and Dick movie, like, I feel like killed her acting career. So it's nice to see her back doing things again.
The Chateau Marmont days.
No kidding.
I bet you have some stories about that. But thoughts on kind of this resurgence we're seeing of Y2K stars getting roles again? Like, what is driving this, would you say?
Adam Brody.
I honestly just think it's nostalgia. I think that's what they've realized is there's a certain group of people, and let's say it is, 25 to 45-year-olds that know these celebrities and can relate to these TV shows, and they can't think of any new content, so they're like, let's redo Boy Meets World, make it into Girl Meets World. Like, it works, and it's made, Sabrina Carpenter a household name after she was on Girl Meets World, So, like, it works for a lot of people.
It certainly has. Just curious, when did you notice kind of a shift in there being designated paparazzi to, like, the citizen paparazzi, if you will? Like, people...
That was immediately.
Soon as
it was
cell phones?
the second TMZ started showing up photos and videos, and that was right around the time that, like, the iPhone 1, I remember getting the iPhone 1 right when it came out. It was, okay, you've got a camera in your hand now. Before that, you were carrying around a little camera, and now your phone is your camera, and it was so easy to take photos that everyone was just like, oh, that's easy. Oh, I can send it from my phone to them? Okay. So it was instantly, I would say.
And is there anything you feel like has been maybe lost or gained with that decline of the traditional paparazzi culture?
I think what's honestly been lost is privacy for these people.
Yeah.
Because it's, then there really is no boundaries in regards to who will take your photo. Like, at least I could look back and say, with TMZ, we weren't going into houses, we weren't going to backyards. But now, if anyone can be a photographer, they can take pictures of you wherever you want. I mean, I've had the weirdest interactions with people walking up to me when I'm at a urinal and saying how much they love me on the show, or they love my podcast and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm a nobody. And so I can only imagine what other people go through in the weird moments that they're being photographed in a bathroom or whatever. Like, there's no boundaries anymore.
Yeah. So with social media, though, it's like celebrities have an opportunity sort of to portray that image that they want, but they're also losing so much autonomy over their own image because anyone can capture them at any moment. Just like you said, all it takes is one bad day, one bad interaction to have all these rumors about you. So I'm curious, with that balance of them being able to now, it's a two-way conversation now, whereas we used to see them on these tabloids, they never could really talk back to us unless they were at like a TV show or something. Do you feel like they have more or less control over their image now because of social media and we do have more direct access to them?
Oh, I think they've got a lot more control over it. And I would say that because now you can put out so many photos of yourself that are exactly how you want the world to see you. And by doing that, you're almost devaluing the paparazzi photos, right? Like, you're letting people in on a glimpse where a selfie may be more exciting for people to look at than someone just walking down the street. So I think with the rise of social media and Instagram, it honestly has hurt a lot of the paparazzi agencies because now a People magazine can just embed your Instagram. Why pay someone a couple $100s for a photo when I can just embed so-and-so's Instagram and have the photo that they want, they like, pushed out there to the world?
Wow. And how do you feel like that's changed the way that the industry is responding? Do you think it's getting more intrusive, more crazy to get the crazy shot?
No, I mean, I feel like a lot of the websites and magazines are dying off. I feel like it's killed that side of it because the only time you knew information about celebs was when you would read about it in a magazine or the TV show or the website. And if you go back 20 years ago and you pick up an Us Weekly, it was thick. There was tons of pages. You pick up an Us Weekly today and it looks like a mailer that you would get. You know, it's 7 pages at this point where they can't afford to do these big magazines like they used to weekly. And I would say that is the outcome of social media bringing you the news, bringing you exactly what the celeb wants to tell you. But I feel like it works in the celeb's favor. They have a dedicated group of people that if they need to put out, hey, I'm doing a movie, hey, I've got new music releasing, you're going straight to the right people, your demo of people who are following you.
That makes sense. And with these last 4 minutes, would love to talk about Hollywood Raw a little bit. And you and Adam, you guys met at TMZ, right? Like, and how did you become friends? Like, we meet people at work. How did you guys hit it off?
Well, we didn't talk when we were at TMZ. We knew each other. He was the New York guy. I was in the LA office. I would see him when he would like do his report in. He would like show up on the screen in the main office. So I knew him. Didn't really interact. I maybe said hi to him once or twice when he'd come out for a holiday party or whatever. And he actually has made fun of me a couple times saying like, I was so excited to meet you and you acted like you could have given a shit about me. And I'm like, sorry, dude. I didn't mean to. I had nothing against you. But we ended up hitting it off after both of us had left TMZ. And I was approached to start up a podcast. I was talked into it by Dr. Drew. He was doing his at the time, and he was like, hey, this is a great thing to do. My company, which was like KBC or something in LA, which was radio, local radio, they were really getting into the podcast space. And he was like, I know you have like this Hollywood following. Why don't you tell your stories and create a podcast? And so I didn't feel like I could do it alone. I like to talk with people. And so I knew Adam, he's got all the craziest stories. He knows all the celebs. He just has a wild life. And I said, do you mind doing this with me? And we kicked it off, I don't know, 8 years, 7 years ago. I don't even know how long it's been at this point. And people liked it. People gravitated towards it and started listening. And I still pinch myself to this day being like, I can't believe people tune in to listen to us just talk. It's so weird to me. My family doesn't even want to listen to me on a normal basis, let alone people who want to tune in and listen. Seems wild to me.
Well, I love the countdown and I love your guests. You get some great guests on. Who's like someone you would love to get on the pod one of these days?
Oh, we are dying to get Tori Spelling. It is someone who we have said for so long, she's had such an interesting, fascinating life. The other person we wanted for the longest time was Tara Reid, but we got her on and she was phenomenal. She was such a good, again, the whole podcast is about pulling back the curtain on Hollywood. We don't like to talk about the red carpet stuff. We like to talk about like what's happening behind the scenes. And, you know, we bring a lot of paparazzi on to get their perspectives. We bring on people who are like a private jet flight attendant and like, tell us what the celebs eat. Tell us the weirdest requests you've gotten. You know, deckhands from private yachts or private chefs. I mean, we try to get a lot of just random close to the celeb. Some of our biggest interviews have been bodyguards. Like we had Kanye's bodyguard on. We've had Justin Bieber's old bodyguard on. So we had some really fun ones with that. But we do get the celebs on. We've got Angelina from Jersey Shore coming up. But Tori Spelling is definitely that person that I would love to have her on. And we just We haven't got her. She's playing hard to get, guys.
I'm like shocked by that. I feel like she would be like jumping at the opportunity. That's shocking to me.
I think that I think most people have to pay to have her on.
Got it. We do read those headlines.
Yeah,
we were obsessed with your Ashley Parker Angel episode.
Oh, he was fun, right?
That was a good one.
We've never heard his side of the story.
And he spilled it all. I couldn't believe it. Like, we had got the O-Town guys, the rest of the band, we got all of them, and they were slyly talking shit on him. And I couldn't believe that he agreed to come on after them and tell his entire side of his story, which he's like, I've never told this to anyone in all the years, and I'm going to tell you right now. And it was like, yes. And I don't know why. Maybe we just have a good way of asking people stuff, but Larsa Pippen coming on and talking about what happened with her relationship with Kim and Kanye and why that one fell apart. We've had some just really phenomenal interviews that have gotten international attention because people seem to come on and want to spill their guts. I don't know.
They trust you guys.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. Can you just tell our listeners where they can find you? They have a ton of episodes. Make sure to check out the Hollywood Raw podcast. It's great.
Yeah, we have a very deep archive with a lot of stuff if you ever want to get lost. But you had mentioned we do the Raw Rundown, which is we release a Friday episode, which is the top 10 stories of the week. So for people who don't have time to read the blogs, watch the news, we will just get them caught up on anything that they need to know about going into the weekend. So that one's a really fun one. It's probably our most popular episode. And then our Wednesday episodes are an interview with someone or us talking about the crazy week that Adam had interviewing a ton of celebs. But you can find us wherever you download your podcasts. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we're on YouTube. So we have a video version of our podcast. And if you search Hollywood Raw, you'll find us on all the social media platforms as well.
Well,
amazing. Please funnel all Backstreet Boys hot tips our way.
please, anything you hear,
any leads.
We see AJ out quite often. I used to see him in LA quite a bit, just at different bars and stuff. He just kind of always seemed to be there. I'm like, what is AJ doing here at this bar right now? It's so random.
Give me some of your Backstreet luck. I would love to walk anywhere and see a Backstreet Boy sitting in there. That's amazing.
So funny.
But Dax, we've only kept you 2 minutes past our time. Thank you so much for your time, and we really enjoy your work, so thank you.
Well, thank you guys for having it. Well, me, not us, because Adam's a lame-o and didn't show up. No, I'm just kidding.
It's okay.
No, thank you very much for having me on. It's always fun to talk about the wild, crazy adventures of my past life at TMZ and what I'm doing now.
Okay, that was our conversation with Dax. Oh my God, Mary, what a great get.
I have been a listener of the Hollywood Raw podcast for a few years now, and they have good information. They're entertaining, and Dax was a gem. What a nice person.
Real
with
charmer.
Some great tea and stories. And, I only hope we can get him and maybe Adam next time back one day to share more stories.
I love when we ask them questions and it's all it takes is like one visual. We've seen this happen with so many of our guests. Like when we mentioned Kitson and
He's like,
the Ivy, you could see like his eye, like it just hits, nostalgia can like hit you in the face sometimes. And I feel like this happened with Perez too. Like, oh my God, like you just unearthed this memory, this time. And I just think it's so powerful. And I love how he shared those stories and those like behind the scenes of, I always wondered what it was like to be a celebrity in that era shopping at Kitson. Because no one looked surprised to see paparazzi there.
And I was not surprised myself to learn that a lot of our favorite starlets of the time were much more savvy with the paparazzi than they let on.
And then complaining about it. I wanted to ask him, and like, I wonder how annoying that was. And because they never really, right. Well, they never really got to, they had to take it all on the chin. You know, they never really, as an industry, like, fought, I guess, well, as I'm saying this, I'm like, well, they did do some, not TMZ, but other tabloids did some shady shit. It all kind of comes out on the wash, but it is interesting how some celebrities would invite that kind of behavior from the paparazzi and then be surprised by it. So it's just so interesting.
Yes. So make sure to check them out at the Hollywood Raw podcast. They're on social media. They're on wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and they have episodes that go back for years. So there's something on there for all of you, but we hope you enjoyed as much as we did. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to rate us 5 stars. Leave us a review on social media, because something I learned, credit Dax and Adam, was to read reviews on the podcast. That's something they do. And I was like, oh, that seems like a good idea.
Thank you guys for listening.
Bye.